got to rescue this thing. And at that point, people have too much invested in the project and oftentimes too much invested politically in the outsourcing development organization's success itself, because people have said, oh, yeah, we're going to make this work, to actually take the outsource organization out over these kind of things. Say, you're fired. You did not meet the acceptance criteria. You've proven incompetent. Off you go. In some cases, the organization simply can't do that, because while they might contractually have a gun to the outsourced development organization's head, in the sense that they could refuse to pay or do clawbacks or something like that, the outsourced development organization, in effect, has a gun to the client's head too, because the client needs that software, and now is faced with the choice of either figuring out how to make this work in some way or another, or not getting that software in the foreseeable future, which is often unacceptable. So you really put yourself into a very dangerous and untenable situation when you run those risks, because of the likelihood and impact associated with those two risks are both very high. So as I mentioned, the conflict of interest issue comes up here when you have people who are testing their own work, or maybe not testing their own work, but in charge of hiring the test partner who's going to do the work. It's the independence issue, the editing and self-editing problems, the different perspectives, the different set of assumptions. The financial incentives can be problematic in the sense that people feel that their financial incentives are best served by not finding bugs, and of course you want anybody engaged in testing to have a bug-finding mentality. Now, I'm not saying don't do acceptance testing. I was mentioning before, acceptance testing is not enough, is not going to work. Acceptance testing is necessary. You are going to have to do it, and you should do a thorough job of it. But remember that if the acceptance test fails, you're going to be faced with a number of unpalatable options. So I would say evaluate your different options in terms of independent test labs, independent testing service providers. Obviously, we provide that service, but there are a lot of others that do as well. And getting some bids on this as part of your outsourcing of development is, I think, a very good option. It will probably result in some modest increase in the project cost and some increase in the project complexity for sure, but you're going to buy yourself a whole lot of risk mitigation with that fairly small amount of money. Okay, now the CMM/CMMI, I used the word illusion before, and I want to be clear about this. I don't mean that CMM and CMMI are not worthy things to do, and that they don't ever work. We are working with a large client right now that's involved in a CMMI initiative, and you can see that it's already starting to result in some valuable thinking and changes in the way that the work is to be done. And now the thing about this particular client of ours is they are looking at CMMI as a way of improving their effectiveness and efficiency, and they will probably see great gains out of that. I think they rightly expect to see big improvements. Now, interestingly, I was at a talk a number of years ago, the ASM SM 2002 conference. So this is what I'm about to mention is something that's been known for some time. Bill Curtis was giving a keynote speech there. Bill Curtis is one of the big wigs behind the Software Engineering Institute's CMM endeavor, and he said that there are basically two kinds of organizations that are using CMM and now CMMI. So there are the organizations that are using it to increase their effectiveness and efficiency and their quality of their deliverables, and those organizations are indeed seeing those results. But there are other organizations which are using this purely as a marketing device, and for those organizations, there is not a significant quality or efficiency improvement. Now remember, this is Bill Curtis saying this. This is not somebody with outside of the SEI. This is basically an admission by one of the people who created CMMI that the system is to some extent gameable if somebody puts their mind to gaming it for financial purposes. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means a couple things. One is that you want to take a close, hard look at an organization that is using their maturity rating as a major argument for why they should be selected as a outsourced development vendor. Because the natural question then comes up, is this company one of the companies that Bill Curtis was talking about? Or is this company a company that is sincere in their use of this and has actually achieved great results from it? So some amount of, say, auditing, if you will, of what's going on and how the tangible results that are available in terms of quality and efficiency that have been achieved, rather than just, oh yeah, well we have this, assessor seal approval. And another thing to keep in mind, even if you dissatisfy yourself, yeah, they're sincere, they're seeing great results here. CMM and CMMI are not really all that rigorous in terms of testing, and so you can have a CMMI level 5 organization that, if you looked at their test maturity, would actually score pretty low. Okay, this issue of logistics. You got to get on top of the logistics, and this includes a whole bunch of stuff. The code that's being created, the supporting files, change management, all these things around the system being built. How is that going to be managed? Because obviously if that's not defined, whenever it gets tested, who knows what it is that you're actually testing, and thus who knows what the test results mean. The test system, so test environments, cohabiting software, linked up systems, databases, and so forth. And this obviously has its potential to be a major landmine here if you don't deal with this is the databases, because if you're planning on using production data for outsourced testing, whether done by the development organization or a specific outsourced testing group or both, that can have some fairly serious security and privacy issues associated with it. And a lot of our clients are struggling with this. How do we anonymize the data for use in testing? And when we anonymize the data, does that negatively affect our ability to do system integration testing, because the links across these disparate but related data sets get broken in the anonymization process? And that's a big issue, a topic for a whole other webinar at some point or another, but certainly something that you will need to think about very carefully. Now, the test cases, the test designs, all that stuff, how is that going to get transferred back and forth? The test processes, how are those going to work? Information flows, the project documents, if you're going to do risk-based testing, how are you going to do that across the organizations? Plans and estimates, how will those be transferred back and forth? Bug reports, test status, work assignments, all of these things have to be considered up front. It's very unlikely that if you don't think about these things at all, they will just magically work themselves out the moment at which they need to. And I would say that for our organizations and clients that we work with that are running their first outsourced projects, the logistics problems are almost universal. There's a great line in the movie Body Heat, and I'm going to paraphrase here for reasons those of you who've seen the movie will relate to, where the one character is talking to another about something, a activity which is very complicated and dangerous, and he says, there are about 1,000 ways to get this wrong, and if you think of 100 of them, you're a genius. And that same kind of thing really does apply here for outsourcing. So do spend some serious time thinking about this stuff. Not that you can't avoid it, and we will have problems, but I'm saying that err on the side of overthinking about this, because most of our clients, and myself included on occasion, have underthought about this before. Okay, outsourced projects are more risky than projects that are done in-house. That's just the way it is. all of the usual risks will continue to exist, but you're also going to have some other risks that will get added to it. Of course, there's potentially an issue with political instability. I think you could look at that tragic situation that occurred in Mumbai and not too terribly long ago and say, wow, that's quite a scary thing. Now, of course, you also look at what happened in 2001 in New York and say, oh, that's a pretty scary thing. So it's not that there's no terrorism, political instability